on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, need you every day. You like my oxygen. Make it seem like the barging down. Got my heart no barging in. From the bed to the floor to the couch. Might wake the neighbors up. Break you in and break you out. In the end, we're gonna make it.
Dionna, hi. We're back with another episode of All Time High. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good here in sunny, beautiful Miami.
All right. Are you there for like the Bitcoin conference, or is that going to be somewhere else this year? I heard they're moving it.
They did actually, the North American Bitcoin conference sold to Quantum a couple years ago, and
Okay.
Quantum managed to do like one show afterwards, and then they canceled it this year. So I'm guessing it wasn't that good last year, which was their first one. But no, I'm here. Tatiana Moraz, she's like one of the OG crypto. She bought Bitcoin when it was like $11. She goes around and sings at different events. She had an investor party last night, and I was here talking about fun opportunities in the AI space and the crypto space. So here
So
for
are
one day.
you
and headed
investing
back.
in her or her singing or her NFTs maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, well, she's got NFTs. She's just a good friend. I'm not investing in anything. I'm investing in our friendship.
All right, good. Well, I know you do that. You know a lot of people in the space, and if she invested in Bitcoin at $11, I would put her kind of in close to OG category. If not, I mean,
Well, if
that's
you saw this place, you'd be like, she's an OG. It's gorgeous.
okay. So she's having a good life, living the YOLO life.
The
You only
Bitcoin
live once.
dream.
That's
The
right.
crypto dream.
Well, and our dream, right, is to take this podcast to a place where we reach an all-time high. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's jump in and take a look at how we're tracking on this. This is kind of the elements of what we
Yeah.
are doing. So let's go to my live cryptocurrency chart.
Yeah, it looks like it's up, right? It's doing good right now.
Yeah, we are tracking the right way. Well, this is the last year. You can see that on the timeline. And if we go right into February 1st, which is today, it's at 1.6 trillion. And it looks like we were just off an all-time high of 1.74, but that's not actually the case. I'm going to go ahead and click here, show you what the all-time high is and how we're trying to track towards what I would say closer to 3 trillion right there at the
Closer to
apex.
3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? What do you think the latest why we're seeing this trend, this little uptick?
Well, I think a lot has happened with the Bitcoin spot ETF, and there was a build up, run up to that. Now that it's been announced, the tendency is to buy the rumor, sell the news. There's kind of these secondary liquidations that have occurred with the Grayscale Bitcoin ETF, allegedly because the fees are so high. And I can relate to that because a lot of people who only had one option previously are now dovetailing into other things like maybe BlackRock's or Fidelity's, or I don't even know. I think there's 10 or 11 ETFs out there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I heard they even dropped it down to like 0% for the first whatever time just to get people to convert. So, I mean, it's smart, really. It kind of makes you laugh, though, because essentially you're paying somebody to do something you could be doing anyways. So you don't have to pay any of that money. I'm not sure why people do, but they do, and that's fine. And so you pay those people the money and they manage your money for you. It's fantastic. I would say I think it's interesting. The market tends to mimic the US markets. So when you see a big influx in the markets, and I think this administration is going to do a big push to try to show that the economy is on point this year, just in order to save face for the office. But you'll see as the US markets start to climb, I think they said the stock market just hit an all-time high, right? So boom, all-time high for the stock market. Maybe crypto is not too far behind.
Yeah, you're looking at S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial sitting right at those apex moments. Yesterday, Chairman Powell announced that he's going to hold off on interest rate cuts for the time being, but it also being an election year, there's an expectation that there is going to be some level of interest rate cuts.
Yeah.
And when that happens, there's a tendency for money to move more into the cryptocurrency space, not financial advice. We are not investment advisors. You know your risk tolerance better than we do. So please plan carefully and talk with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. But we're just watching the macro and what historically has transpired.
Yeah. Remember, not your keys, not your crypto either. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I know that is one of your core concepts.
No, it's FTX. I think FTX is the proof of anything. FTX is proof of that.
Well, yeah, I'd even add the corollary to that of if it is your coins and it's on an exchange, put it off the exchange onto your own wallet or cold wallet or some other mechanism. And look, since we're talking about it, spread your risk, right? Not just in terms of number of coins. We're going to talk about a lot of coins, but I would even say in terms of number of exchanges.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Cool. Well, let's jump from that concept into one of my hot buttons, which is the number of developers. And we've talked about this. We won't spend much time on it here, but it's the developer report. It's a must-read dynamic.
Yeah.
And as we look at that, let me share.
Yeah, you know, when you're evaluating projects and you're saying, okay, does this entity have the true potential to reach what they're saying they're going to do? Developers is a key indicator in that, because you can't build the next world currency with one developer, right? That's just, when you look at it, you're like, that doesn't really seem that possible. So I would probably say that project is not going to achieve what they say. But when you see, you know, like what you're going to point out here, this will show you the projects that are more serious about hitting that goal.
Yes, and this is a lot of words, but I want to just I'll highlight it. Hopefully, it'll make it better and not necessarily read it to you. But they are the leading indicator in my mind of value creation. We're actually going to talk about something beyond this as it relates to locking up your total value. But as you look, I think that part of the reason we were kind of down at the end of last year is that the overall developer segment was down 24%. And that's people who contribute the code that builds the infrastructure. If you want to think about it one way, when they were building out the railroads, somebody had to lay down the tracks. And I think fundamentally that's what developers do. And I sure want to say this loud and proud. There's this concept out there right now that the best incentive is no incentive. And over time, I think I agree with that. But in the short term, when you're laying down the tracks, well, when you have no incentive, how do you build the infrastructure?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to ask you your thoughts about that concept of the best incentive is no incentive. How does that play in your mind as we try to drive towards an all-time high?
I don't know. These days, like, I better get an incentive. I don't want to hear there's no incentive for something. I think that people, you know, the technology has found a way to help people in ways that we didn't know we needed, by being able to help us build value on our money, which is something that banks have not been doing. They've been taking money from our money instead of helping us build money. And now crypto has found a way to leverage the playing field and say, hey, you come help us build your network, right? Like stake, secure, tie in, value, what'd you call it?
Total lock value.
Total lock value. There you go. Total lock value. You know, do this for us and we can show you how to get this reward out of it. So, you know, I know you have that philosophy, but for me these days, I think people want an incentive. So,
well, no, I do too. And I've kind of started reaching this tipping point where if it's an altruistic endeavor, let's do something that's charitable. Because if you look at the banks in terms of there being no incentive, no, there is an incentive. First off, they are loaning money to make money. So call that capitalism, if you will. And then their secondary incentive is to protect the incumbent. And as they look at this potential railroad tracks that I'm going to keep going back to that analogy because it's so effective here, of laying down the tracks for this. If the developers don't have an incentive, why would you build out the tracks? I mean, it's great if you have enough capital or don't need the incentive, or maybe your incentive is that you want to make the world a better place. That's fine, right? But you've got to have some kind of like incentive. And in the Venn diagram of life, if I can have an incentive that's also one part altruistic and another part financial, I think the motive and the drive accelerates much more quickly than if it's like, oh, let's just do it because we can.
Yeah.
Would you agree we can do this if we wanted to in terms of re-architecting the infrastructure?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So Bitcoin, I think, is proof of that, right? Like there was an incentive in the beginning, but essentially the people who believed in it had to make a market for it in order for that value to increase. So Bitcoin is proof that it is possible, that it can be done. I don't think Bitcoin will necessarily be the one to do it, but there's enough people who are getting tired of government reach in multiple countries. And I think COVID was just an exacerbation of that. And now the things we're seeing with wars and elections, people are looking for another way out. And this monetary opportunity is definitely one of those. So that altruistic side, I think, is an important side of it.
I'd even argue or say that the incentive for Bitcoin initially was with miners. And there's the initiative with people that are investing, like trying to, a lot of people hodl, like it's one of the most held currencies out there. In fact, maybe you can share with the group where the word and how the word hodl came to be.
Oh yeah, so it was a guy giving a presentation, and it was very early in Bitcoin. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was talking, and he's like, just hodl, and he had misspelt hold, because the whole thing is, if you hold the value will increase, because you're decreasing the scarcity, and so, or increasing the scarcity. So everybody started making fun of him and was like, hodl.
Yeah. And I think too, like, as you look at this, one of the great dynamics, not only here, but in any coin that you look at, is circulating supply. I think it's one of the least evaluated or carefully considered. There's some coins like Bitcoin where 93% of the circulating supply has been delivered. There are other coins like, let's say, XLM, where 50% of the circulating supply is out there. And there's other coins like,
but they have like 1 billion, right? Doesn't XLM,
yes,
like it's
I believe that's right.
Amount. Yeah, it's like 1 billion.
And Dogecoin, where there is no limit on the circulating supply. So when there's no limit, that's really hard to get a grip on what the dynamics of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's such a good point. That's in, you would think, all economics, right? So if there's no scarcity, then the value there's no value to it. And I think that's the issue with right now with most countries, especially the US. We're printing money at a ridiculous rate, and thus increasing the amount that's in circulation, and it's decreasing the value of our currency because of it. And that's why, okay, so here's a fun question. Is Bitcoin going up, or is the dollar going down?
Well, one of the great prognosticators on that is Raoul Pal with Real Vision. And he talks about, if you look at the value of homes and other things that have grown, let's say 4% per year from 2010, when we started quantitative easing until like 2022, if you play around with the numerator and denominator, the money that went into the market was the percent gain in the housing market. So you may think that your house went up 4% per year, but they also added more monetary supply at 4% per year. So, can you beat the market? Sure. But can you beat the printing of money? Well, that's another piece of the concept to consider.
Yeah. So. And then the US, for some reason, thinks that we just think it doesn't apply to us. But, between the decoupling of the petro, there's just all these things that make a difference. And one by one, when you start ticking them away, it devalues the currency. And as we're attributing this, crypto is the same exact way. You have these things that you need to make sure the cryptocurrency hits these check marks in order to have the valid, to have value for people to want to use it. It's the same thing. It's all, I guess, do you think it's all modern money theory? I mean, because we're testing all of this out, right? None of this is like perfect.
Oh yeah. I think what you have that's different this time is that the countries are acting like college football teams. Do you want to hear more about that?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, here,
like
I will.
Punt.
Yeah, no. So I watched with great fascination, very sports minded, the SEC and all the conference changing that went on. The school that I went to, TCU, we got kicked out of basically the Southwest Conference. And when that happened, because A&M and Baylor and Texas A&M went to the Big 12, we then went on this journey of 1,000 miles. And we were then in the Mountain West Conference. We were in Conference USA. We then came back to the Big 12 Conference. And so we made this journey. And I watched A&M leave and go to, they were kind of the pioneers in this space. And I think this relates a lot to cryptocurrency, because they said, okay, we're done of being Texas's little brother. We're going to move out of the Big 12 into the SEC, take the challenge of Alabama and LSU and all the big time football programs.
Yeah.
Well, turns out they were the pioneers, and for about a decade, they had that first mover advantage. But after 10 years of that, watching them succeed, watching them participate in revenue share, we talk about motives and financial elements being important. Every time that any team in the SEC won a championship, they divided it amongst the member teams equitably, right? So these tokenomics, in this case, it's actually financial economics for sports, mattered. And guess who's joining the SEC now? Texas and Oklahoma. So you've got pioneers, and then you have settlers.
Yeah.
And I look at that in terms of the banking institutions too. A lot of them are starting to move over and say, well, and we looked at Jamie Dimon a couple of weeks ago where he said, hey, you know what? I don't believe in this stuff, but behind you, there's him building out the JP Morgan coin. So
Yeah. Hey, do you think the episode where we talked about Jamie Dimon is why my account got closed? Like, do you think they went through and found it and was like, all right, you're out of here?
Well, I worry about that. I wonder about that. I don't know. I think, as we put our names out there, we're putting our first name primarily, but not our last name. Not that we want to hide behind it, but I know there's a lot of people within cryptocurrency as they do channels like the ones that we're doing for the greater good. They're very careful not even to share their images. So
Yeah, because we get hacked. It's so annoying. It's so annoying that people have like copied my image and solicited my friends, and my friends being good people, sometimes they help. And I had to make sure everybody knows, like, hey, I don't DM you first. I will never, ever, ever DM you first, like ever.
Yeah, we're talking about X probably there the most, I would
Ever.
suspect.
Yeah. Like I don't ever
Formerly
DM
Twitter.
people. Or Instagram's really bad. Instagram's a really bad one. And they don't care. They don't care if you get your account back. It's annoying.
Oh no! Once you're shut down or shadow banned, good luck. I mean, it would take an act of an executive or a crowd storm, probably both, to unlock things. And that's something you have to consider. We're building this channel on YouTube, and you and I talked about that at the beginning. It's a centralized entity. They could shut us down at any time.
You could.
We're not looking for that to occur, but you just have to be cognizant of that possibility. And for any of the creators out there, I always encourage them, download your stuff, man. Hang on to it. If you have things that you want to keep, because then you can start over. But if you're not in a plan where you can start over, the day they shut them down, it's like the flipping of a switch.
Yeah. And it sucks. No warning, no nothing. It's just gone. Okay, so going back to value, right? And
all right, I'm going to go back to circulating supply quickly.
Yeah, I was like, did we see the chart? I don't remember if we showed the chart.
I brought it up, but I didn't. We were kind of there, and you asked about XLM, which I think is a fair question. As we look here, they are probably a top 20 coin listed as stellar. Why they're called stellar and XLM on one side or not, you can see right over here. And most people focus here at the price, but I think circulating supply is a key thing. And right now they're at 56% circulating supply. Their max supply is, what is that, 50? I mean, they used to have an escrow. They took their escrow away, and
50 billion.
Yeah.
50
and as you look up, back to my earlier point, we'll start here at the top. I said 90. Look at that. I was right on point. 93.4% of circulating supply out there. And with the happening probably a couple months from now, you're going to see even more pressure on supply.
I feel like that could be a rap song. With a happening.
The happening. We could probably get somebody to do that for us.
I know. Hey, if you know how to bust a rhyme, send us a song. We'll play it.
I think I was better like rapping earlier in my life, but now I've kind of moved on. Look at here, you go. ADA, if you're looking at supply and demand characteristics, 78.7, XRPs at 54.3. I think that was the one you were referring to. They have an escrow that they release each month. But as you look at this, you're going to find more in supply and demand characteristics that are helpful to investment theses when they're higher up on that. I'm not saying that's the only thing to consider, but that's certainly one thing to consider as it relates to the coins you might otherwise be looking at.
Yeah.
And I'll use that as a segue over to something that happens as well that is worth noting: the total value locked on chain. And these are people who, to our earlier conversation, have basically been willing to lock up their coins to gain yield, to vote with proxy on different initiatives that are out there to occur. Do you want to talk a little bit more about this, Dionna? And then maybe from there I can share the literal definition of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a little bit ago, you had just referenced building the network and adding value, and what is the incentive to do that? And one thing that we figured out in cryptocurrency is how to increase the APR, or essentially the rewards that are paid to the participants that help what we call stake their coins on the network. So when I stake my coins, what that means is I've locked my coins into the network, and I've said, hey, I'm not going to spend it. I'm not going to send it. I'm going to leave it here. Not only does that help make the network more secure, it also helps in transaction processing. Because if I can do a quick snapshot and I know that all these are right here, then I can move what I need to move a little bit quicker. And so it does help build the network. It helps lock that value in, which is what you're talking about right now, Jim. And it also pays incentives to the people so that you get that entire cohesiveness you need to build out the project.
And it's just overwhelming to me that Ethereum has 56% of the total locked value of all chains. I mean, that, wow. Like,
Yeah.
and you think about it, because there was a point in time where not that long ago, you could purchase Ethereum for 100, 140 bucks.
Yeah.
Now it's well over 2,000.
Yep. Yeah, sure is. And Ethereum got an early start. It was the second to Bitcoin. It's the first smart contract logic. It has a completely different use case than Bitcoin does. And therefore, projects are able to use its technology and actually just continue to create and iterate off of it to get this whole slew. Like Ethereum would be better for supply chain, right? When you're talking about things that you can detach that monetary value from. Ethereum operates in both ways. It has monetary value on the sense if you want to buy, use, sell, or operate on the Ethereum network. And then it has the capabilities within the technology to store value of whatever. So it could be documents, it could be art, it could be, and you're seeing this explosion of all these different industries embracing this technology.
For sure. And if you look as a layer one platform, Ethereum has we'll call it 2,400. And the second place developer has 800 as of December 31st, 2023, literally 3 times as much. Now it's on a downward trend. So, the whole concept about buying low and selling high, I don't know where Ethereum sits in that, but we do have this to look at and know that 31 billion of Ethereum is locked up on the chain for whatever reason, for whatever purpose.
It's a lot of money.
And so you look at two characteristics that probably retroactively explains the growth that occurred. And so as I'm looking at this on the developer report, I'm trying to triangulate maybe which one of these isn't down year over year or is down a little bit less and has a position within the total value on locked chains. Do you want to take a look at maybe a little bit more than I do about Tron? It's got $7.827 billion of locked value.
Yeah. Well, I was actually going to say, could we go over to that DeFi yield real quick? Because I just want to show when we're talking about the rewards, it's 2 tabs over.
I gotcha. And I'm trying to see if Tron's showing up in this monthly developer activity, and I'm way down the list, not seeing it right off the top.
Yeah. Well,
and
there
it is. Wow.
16 developers.
So somehow they've got total value locked, but look at that. Year over year, developers are down. Only 16 full-time developers. There's total developers of 93. So this is where kind of the triangulation of those two dynamics comes into play. You wanted to look at best DeFi yield, or you wanted to look at?
Yeah, no, because we're talking about, when people are locking up and they're staking, with you, if I had a checking account right now, or even a savings account, do you know what the payout is for a bank savings account?
I mean, if you don't ask them, you're probably at 1%, 2%. If you ask them these days, you might get 4%.
Really? I was higher than
I
know for a long time
it was
sub 1, right? You'd be like,
forever, for decades.
So they're not, well, now they have to, because they have to compete with this. So if you go and you look, right, Solana staking, that's at 7%, 7.23%, right? And so what you see is people, they call it compounding. So I lock up my money, I get these rewards, and then I can either take those rewards and stick it back in and continue to make. So I make the percentage, I dump it back in, and then I make a bigger percentage and I dump it back in, and I make a bigger percentage and I dump it back in. And so now I'm compounding that 7%. So that's one way that people use it. What Lido is, I don't even know what Lido is. It's 3%.
Well, I was going to say, it looks like it's on the Ethereum blockchain. So there's this whole secondary level of layer 2, I would suspect, in some way. I don't want to click on the button not knowing what we're going to get into with our...
Yeah, for sure. The Cardano is at 2.2, right? Coinbase is at, Matic's at 5%. So, you could get some decent money. You could make a good chunk of money off of this stuff just by buying it, not even playing the long or short game, just by buying it and staking it.
And you're really not, and you help me here, making money on it. You're basically accruing more coins, right? My payout is not in US dollars. My payout is in more Matic coins.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, it's in more coins. And as long as, if it decreases in value, obviously you're going to lose value. If it stays the same, you gain value. And if it increases, you gain value. If you stake and it increases, it's exponentially better, right? Because now you're getting free money on top of it. So this is not financial advice, just explaining how people get attracted to DeFi, why FTX was such a big deal, because that's where a lot of people were staking and they were getting killer rewards out of it. So everybody was making a little bit of something somewhere on that place.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, if your story is too good to be true, you might end up in one of these. I mean, I'm sure we're going to, there's the rocket ship.
Yep.
August of 21. Yeah. Like somewhere right before the story gets too good to be true, the crash is coming. I mean, it got all the way up to 73. Yep. And then there's the wall in November. If you're holding this price of the coin was in November at $25. So it had come off their all-time high. Yeah. But boy, on the 7th, I guess, when that all broke, you're now down to 90 cents.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was, what's her name? Madeline. Oh yeah. She made the mistake and actually posted what she needed to buy them back at. And that was a signal to everybody that was the threshold that if FTX broke would cripple it.
Wait, you're talking about Caroline?
Yeah, Caroline, that lady.
Ellison. Wait a second. So Caroline Ellison, who was dating.
She tweeted it. Yeah, when CZ posted that he was going to sell all of his FTX token, she responded with, "I will buy them back at this market value, like $24." And when she did that, it was a big deal because that signaled to everybody that was what FTX couldn't afford that coin to drop below.
And so do you think she did that naively?
Or with intent? Are you kidding me? Yeah,
well, I don't know. I mean, hell hath no fury, right? Like that quote. And maybe there's some breakup here dynamic between the couple, right? Because you might do something Romeo and Juliet style, you know, I don't know where they were in their romantic escapades, as it were, but like what a way to
blow it all up
too. Yeah. I mean, that was that the beginning of the end?
I never thought of that. I never thought of it. Maybe they conspired. Who knows? Yeah. She did she did take the deal. So maybe
she did take the deal. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, by the way, and we'll get into this is an entire, I can't wait for this episode where the Department of Justice dropped the entire secondary aspect of this that would have caused campaign finance reform. Like they said basically there wasn't incremental sentencing that would occur. So why should we even pursue it? And so they dropped it, which would have otherwise let us see or know who had received the funds from FTX.
Of course.
All right. So I'm going to go back to one more thing to kind of close out the last aspects of this episode.
Let's see. Are we getting there, Jim? Where's that all-time high coming from?
I don't know. I'm not there yet. Well, it's going to come in part from, like we talked about, developers, but then this total locked value. I wanted to share with everybody Investopedia because it's a great place to tell you more about cryptocurrency. It gives you good detail. I think this is an advertisement at the top, so feel free to use that or lose that as you need be. But it measures the US dollars of an asset locked on a blockchain. And back to my original belief, this is the tipping point, the apex, the combination or Venn diagram of investor and developer interest in a blockchain. So, and to your point, I love it when you and I and the interwebs all kind of connect. Yeah. It's similar to the bank deposits for DeFi projects.
There you go.
So that is the heartbeat of this episode. Is there anything else you'd like to close us out with today?
No, just enjoying our conversations. Can't wait for the next one.
All right, Dionna, appreciate you. You have a great day.
Yep.
We're working our way to another all-time high.
You on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, miss you every day. You like my oxygen. Make it seem like the barging down. Got my heart no barging in. From the bed to the floor to the couch.